Hello, welcome to Lion and Mouse Commentary. I'm Tori, and this is my best friend Holland.
Hello.
If you're new to our show, we rank various forms of entertainment by different categories out of a total score of 10, with only 2 points allowed for our personal taste. We'll break down everything as we go. Feel free to agree, disagree, or learn about something new. And be sure to tread lightly because we do talk about hot takes and spoilers. Cut to the intro. Okay, today I chose the 2024 Netflix film Damsel for us to review. I think this was blind to both of us?
Yes.
Yeah, blind to both of us. If this is new to you, here is some spoiler-free background before we get into our scores. Okay. So Damsel was released March 8th, 2024 on Netflix. Directed by Juan Carlos Frenadillo, or Frenadillo. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Screenplay by Dan Mazzot. Produced by Joe Roth, Jeff Kirschenbaum, and Chris Castaldi. And the score was by David Fleming, produced by Hans Zimmer, which I found was an
Very interesting
note. Running time of 110 minutes. It stars Millie Bobby Brown, Ray Winstone, Nick Robinson. I'm probably going to mispronounce her name, so I apologize, but Shohreh Aghdashloo, and Angela Bassett and Robin Wright. The Google synopsis is a young woman agrees to marry a handsome prince only to discover it was all a trap. She is thrown into a cave with a fire-breathing dragon and must rely solely on her wits and will to survive. So according to Netflix, this film amassed 35.3 million views in its first 3 days, which placed it first in 79 countries on Netflix. Between its debut and the end of June, so just about a little over 3 weeks, the total views rose to 143 million, making it the most watched Netflix film for the first half of 2024. So, that being said, it did meet quite mixed reviews.
Did it?
Quite mixed. It has, I was reading some reviews, and it seems like everybody is either like a super fan or a super hater, and there are not a lot of like really neutral reviews. But they seem to cancel each other out as far as like the number of like this is amazing and number of like this is trash reviews, at least just from what I saw. I only dug into it like a handful, so yeah, but quite mixed reviews from what I could see.
Interesting.
So, with that being said, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. So our first category for movies is plot and story delivery. Out of a total possible score of 2, I gave this half a point out of 2. This film, I feel like it's an okay premise, but it has an extremely lackluster application. And I think there's a lot of moments that are pretty problematic. There's quite a few plot holes. Things don't really make sense. It's not super linear, or it doesn't really answer its own questions.
Okay.
So straight out of the gate, I think Millie Bobby Brown opens narrating it, does she? I think at some point.
I don't recall.
Well, at one point, I wrote in quotes, she says, "This is not one of those stories."
I guess, I think she does open in narration, which I know you're not a fan of.
I'm like, big groan, because yes, it is, because every story these days is not like one of those stories. It's like a not like other girls trope.
Yeah.
Like, please don't narrate us and tell us that. Like, come on, be a little more original. Just tell me the story. Like, don't give me this like dramatic build up like you're going to be not like other girls. Just tell me the story. Already sets me off into like an eye roll groan.
Sure.
First of all, when we're introduced to our main characters, like straight out of the gate, I was very confused. We have Millie Bobby Brown and her sister who are chopping wood in the snow and then carrying it into town. And then her father's immediately called my lord. I'm like, wait a minute. Are you guys royal or are you peasants wood chopping? Like, I'm so confused. Yeah. And then you're not bringing wood to your own home. You're dropping it off at this like wood vendor. So like, who are these people? Now I'm immediately confused.
Yeah.
So again, something simple to kind of correct that storytelling, to tell us who these people are, should have taken an extra 2 seconds of screen time, and it wasn't. Things like that happen throughout this entire movie. the fact they're like sailing in the snow, but then they talk about it being summer. Again, like, was it summer or is it winter? Like, here I'm watching this snowy town, and then you think like, oh, maybe if somebody along the way said, oh, they're from the north where it's always cold, boom, instantly answer this question. Instead, we're just left with like confusing narration. So like just setting up the plot, it's hard to like figure out what are the, like you said, like we've said multiple times, like with magical kind of fantastical stories, what are the rules here? Like, is this,
how does the world function?
How does the world function? And we're not even given answers to really, really simple questions to just establish the story. We haven't even gotten into the narrative yet. The tropes that this has is like Millie Bobby Brown has a dead mother. Okay, we kill off the mom. Her dream is to see the world. Like, come on. Like, we're picking like, you just put a hat full of like typical YA tropes and you just like pulled them out of a hat and wrote this movie. I really want to know if AI wrote this movie, because I swear some of it is so overdone. 35 minutes into the movie, and we get to like what the trailer the premise.
That was one of the biggest problems I have. I'll talk about it. But why does it take us 30 minutes for anything bad to happen?
35 minutes. I clocked it. We know, we watched the trailer before with a little Netflix commercial, like Netflix trailer, and we read the description on Netflix. It's one thing if you're walking into a movie theater and all you've seen is a poster.
Sure.
And you've just like, oh, well, Millie Bobby Brown movie's come out. Let's go see it. No, we had to watch a trailer because Netflix is always showing you trailers for their own movies. And then we read the description before we clicked the play button. And so this premise is already told to us from the beginning, and we have this useless buildup between the prince and Millie Bobby Brown and all this tension at the wedding that something nefarious is going on. Yeah, we know she's going to get thrown into a dragon cave.
Yeah.
That, like, can we just get there? Or like all of this buildup is just useless.
Yeah.
Like, is this a marketing problem? Should we not have spoiled what the premise is? Should we have just like left it kind of ambiguous? Maybe not literally show the clip of her getting thrown into a pit in the trailer? Like, this is a huge problem. And so now I feel like I'm watching the first half hour of the movie. What'd you say the runtime was? 110 minutes. So basically a third of the movie almost that was a waste of my time. Again, why, if Millie Bobby Brown is so suspicious, why isn't she running away? How does she survive the fall when she falls down there? We do have some some rules of reality apply. So how is she completely fine when she fell down a huge cavern that she can't climb out of?
Yeah.
What is this lore with the dragon? Does this dragon only eat 3 women a generation and that's it? Wait, that's never explained. What the heck is going on? So this lore that you feel like in a fantastical world, you should have some pretty big lore establishment. We start the movie with like a flashback when the horses are like running and the king's going into the dragon cave and at the very, very beginning of the film. And like, that's your chance to like set up some lore for us.
Yeah.
And then maybe have like a break in time. And it's like, now our kingdom has to respond to this dragon threat this way. Maybe the prince could have been narrating and been telling his story. And then like, but if the prince marries the right damsel, then the curse will be broken. But then you don't know, okay, how is that curse going to be broken? Oh, he's going to throw her into a pit. Wow, that would be a really surprise for the audience, especially if this prince was set up as our narrator and as this, like, he's the hero. Maybe he's going to be the one trying to find a damsel to save his town. But no, we do it all from Millie Bobby Brown's perspective, and we have no tension or buildup or really concern for the first half hour of the film because we spoiled it in the trailer.
Yeah.
I don't understand why, once we're in the cave, I feel like this movie consists of way too much of Millie Bobby Brown screaming and crying and hiding on stage in the cave. Like, the entire movie is her screaming and crying and running in the cave. And while I understand it kind of builds tension, it was just like a rinse and repeat. Like, she's just in a different room of the cave. And she's supposed to be this really intelligent person, and yet she's trying to hide and is just screaming all the time. Like, hello, you're in a cave that's cavernous and reverberates. Like,
and
go ahead.
Okay, I don't want to cut into, but especially because her being quiet becomes a pivotal plot point.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's not. The whole time we've been watching, it hasn't been an issue. Right. So it should not be an issue right now.
Right, exactly. And then this whole thing with her with the map, I thought was really interesting. But what I didn't, and I kind of liked the part where you find out that, like, oh my goodness, here are all these people that have tried to escape and couldn't. Even in this room that's safe, they never could get out and escape. I thought that was very interesting because you're like, oh, okay. So there's all these people that have found a safe place to be, but they died here. They died in a safe place because it's too dangerous to try and find the way out. I liked that. I thought that was like, all right,
I know where you're going with this.
Maybe we're finally getting somewhere. But then Millie Bobby Brown's like, oh my gosh, here's this map of the way out. And then we get to that point and the victim that found that way out is dead there. What, did their ghost come back and write in chalk on the wall or something? Like,
the last dying wish was, Miss Dragon Lady Ma'am,
please fill in the map
and fill it in for me.
Fix the map for me so that someone can find my dead body.
Yeah.
Really?
It's a huge plot hole.
It makes no sense. Because if it was somebody else, if it was another victim, they would have put a big X over there.
And also, if you were like, I found the exit, why would you be like, I must go back?
I must go back.
To finish the map. No, I'm getting the heck out of there.
Exactly. So it's like, and then, oh, that wasn't the way out. It's just a trap. It's a dead end. And they died. The poor girl died. Like, come on. Like, this is a huge glaring plot hole.
Yeah.
A fifth grader could figure out that this doesn't make any sense. Why does Netflix think we're that dumb that we're not just going to overlook it? When did Millie Bobby Brown lose her shoes? I don't know. At some point, shoes are just poof. They're gone. Bye. Okay. Just because we want to see your barefoot. I guess that's like the thing. You're not a heroine if you have shoes on.
Yeah.
Like Kristen Stewart wanting to be barefoot at her wedding. Like, we can't be strong, independent.
I'm not like other girls.
If we wear
I don't wear shoes.
Honestly.
Okay. I didn't know it was so normie to wear shoes. Like,
to protect our feet in a rocky cave.
Oops.
Running from a dragon.
Yeah.
No, I won't wear these. I won't be bound by the patriarchy of shoes. Like, come on. It makes no sense. I really hated I made myself laugh at my own note here, but I wrote as a negative, dad therapy. And then there was another negative, dragon therapy. Like, why do we have to have two therapy sessions in this movie? It irritates me when we stop an action scene to have a therapy lesson, but we had two in this movie with the dad and then with the dragon. Like, come on, man. Like, it's like
this is not the time.
This is not the time. This is a climactic end of the movie, and I can't take anybody seriously. Like, they can hold their own in a climactic battle because we're going to time out, everybody. We're going to have a therapy session. It's so lame. And then dragons aren't fireproof. Are you kidding me? You're kidding me.
We didn't establish the rules of how
how
fantasy works here,
right.
So
but
it's fine.
I'm pretty sure that everyone would assume that a fire-breathing lizard will not burn themselves with their own fire. This dragon that's allegedly, like, breathing molten magma into small cave spaces to try and incinerate young girls never got dragon fire back on itself. Like, that never happened. Like, come on. Like, come on. This is just, like, so lame. Like, you've just made your own villain the lamest villain you possibly could. All those knights fighting against the dragon, their torches were just, they could have just burnt the dragon with their torches.
Yeah.
Like, shot some flaming arrows. Nobody's tried to shoot flaming arrows at a dragon in all these generations of this terror. Like, nobody shot flaming arrows at it. Oh, well, if you'd just done that, it would have been dead already. Like, this just is so lame. Like, the whole plot of this movie is just lame. I don't have any other way to put it. It's just lame. And then it's an hour and 17 minutes when she's out of the cave. She's in the cave from the 35-minute mark to the hour and 17-minute mark, and the majority of her being in the cave is running and crying and screaming and hiding. Yep. Like, boring. Mm-hmm. It's a snooze fest of a film, and it doesn't make sense. It's all ridiculous and nonsensical. The pacing is just really, really terrible. And like, I have no compulsion in this film because I haven't been set up a decent narrative. I've been spoiled. Like, the whole twist of the film of her falling down, being thrown into a pit is boring. And then the whole movie is just Millie Bobby Brown running around on a green screen, crying and hiding from a CGI dragon. And there's no narrative within that other than her finding, lost people. So again, it's a good premise. Like, the premise sounds really good. Like, I like the premise of this village sacrificing, newly married new brides and these queens, princesses to appease the dragon. But even that wasn't established very well as a decent lore. And then the whole like twist at the end where actually we're going to now root for the dragon and woohoo, like now that we're on the dragon's side, like it just felt like a really lackluster flip because all we did was we had literally 2 back-to-back therapy sessions to make our former villains sympathetic, and now we want our former villains to succeed. And I just, like, at that point I really don't care.
Yeah.
Because you didn't give me any reason to throughout the whole movie. So that's why I say it's an okay premise, but it just has a very lackluster application. And so that's why I feel like giving half a point's pretty generous, because there really are some good nuggets. I liked the fact that all of these girls had died, and kind of the way their ghosts are kind of like, you get that kind of visual cue of like who they were, and them trying to kind of collectively, not all at the same time, but like collectively try and find a way out. And like, I felt like that was really interesting. I felt like the dragon as, a character was kind of interesting because you don't know at the beginning, like, is this an intelligent dragon or is this more like, the animalistic, like the Demogorgon in the Upside Down?
Yeah.
Is this just like a predator animal? Like, and then, I think Millie Bobby Brown is a decent heroine, but again, we don't set up anything really about her except all these like tropes you pulled out a hat. And so we couldn't even really care her narrative either. So half a point out of 2.
Fair enough. Okay, so for plot and story delivery, for me, out of 2 points, I also gave this half a point.
All right. Twins.
I'm going to say something that's probably going to sound very harsh. This entire script feels like it was written by a fan fiction author who likes fantasy. Like, there are elements that could be good, but none of it quite works together in a way that's logical enough to keep me invested the whole way through. That's the best way I think I could summarize my opinion.
And I feel like that's kind of a disservice to some fan fiction authors.
That's true, because I'm sure that there are really good fan fictions out there of like people who put a lot of thought and effort into like world building or whatever.
Right. But it's like somebody that piecemealed a bunch of different stuff together.
It feels like the side of fan fiction that's like, I'm just going to throw it out there because I want to be an author, and not people that like actually like took the time and effort. And so it almost felt like they pieced together this story thinking people like fantasy, people like tough girls who don't need no man, and like that kind of thing. Like, and they were like, we'll take all of these elements that we know people like, and we're going to smash them together into a film. But from one step to the next in the plot, it just doesn't create a cohesive enough story to feel satisfying as a viewer. It's very traditional in the setup. 2 families, different classes, arranged marriage because it's going to benefit them both. And you have a slight teaser, I guess, for the fact that something may not be right here, because even though this guy is supposedly a lord and has influence and a pretty nice home, which again, it's not really established pretty well, it's made pretty clear that they're like not very wealthy or royal, although it kind of suggests like they are, but they're not. So it's like that part's really confusing. So you're like, what does the Aurea, the like nice royal family, like what does Aurea get out of this? Like that doesn't really make sense at first. So that was like my first indication that like something's not right here. And then the other like illusion that I had was when the queen character says to the stepmother character, she says, your family needs money. My family needs a bride. What we don't need is more family. And I was like, but hold up, if you're getting a bride, isn't that like getting family? Like,
right.
So that part was my second illusion that like, okay, something's not right here.
Yep.
But it's not made clear enough that if you were watching this more casually or with less attention, you would probably blow right past that. And then nothing makes sense in that first 30 minutes. So 35 minutes in, and the first real conflict arises, because there's not even really conflict before that, when the character of Elodie and her family come to Aurea and they're meeting the royal family, and I thought, oh, they're just not going to get along or whatever it is, and you know, the whole like distaste for the arranged marriage. But no, they hit it off and they're like having a good time and a good conversation, and they seem to be vibing pretty good. And so you're like, okay, now I don't understand what this movie is if everything's cool.
Right.
Like, and then 35 minutes comes in and he throws her into the pit, and I was like, oh, well, at least something happened that,
right,
you know,
there's the conflict.
There's a problem, at least first problem.
Right.
But then I when it happened, I paused, and it was like 33 minutes in or something like that. And I went, dang, I sat through that much for something to happen.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Yeah. And nothing that happened prior to that really mattered.
And that's the thing. And that pattern of like something finally happened continues through the whole movie. Out of all of the things that happened in this movie, there were only 3 significant plot moments in 110 minutes. You could condense that into a 40-minute short film and call it good.
Mm-hmm.
And the pacing is so slow because of it. And it becomes very difficult at one point while Elodie is in the caves to stay locked in, like focus-wise, because nothing's really happening. We're watching her explore a cave, but if I wanted to watch cave exploration videos, I'd go do that on YouTube. I wouldn't do that on Netflix.
Right.
Where I'm watching, and I don't want to necessarily watch Millie Bobby Brown explore caves, because she's not a cave explorer, and she's not playing a cave explorer. She's playing a not royal who is
running away from a dragon.
Yeah, and so it's like, that was very rough.
I did think, I don't remember if I said this, I did think the healing glowworms were pretty cool.
That was cool. I did like that.
I liked that as well. That was a nice touch. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm a little bit lost on the motives of basically everyone. They explain it like this. So our ancestors angered the dragon, and so now to keep the dragon happy, we have to give the dragon 3 royal blood girls for the maunching, I guess, and then we can live in peace. And so you're like, okay. But then I'm still confused, because how does the dragon know every time a new generation comes? If the dragon doesn't have a relationship with the people in Aurea, then how does the dragon know that there's another, that now the next generation is here? They're just feeding girls to this dragon whenever? Like, right. That question is like, even if it's like I lost 3, so I must be given 3, but you have been given 37 or however many.
Right.
That's not 3. It's still something transactionally is not adding up here. So I never fully understood that. Because the constant sacrifice. Another question I had is, how is Aurea rich? Because if Aurea and all of the people of Aurea are okay with sacrificing girls on the reg to a dragon pit, and they're supposedly supposed to be like rich and powerful kingdom, what's the trade? What's the import export? Like, are you guys like, how do you make your money? Like, how does your kingdom make your money? And it's obvious the kingdom is not very big,
right?
Because at the wedding, which you would assume everybody who lives in this kingdom is present at the wedding, was like 50 people max, maybe. And I was like, even that was a comment I said when I was watching it. I watched it with my mom, and I was like, there are not very many people at this wedding. Where is everyone?
And see, I thought that the kind of the twist was that the dragon and the queen, her like royal lineage, that they were on the same side. And so the dragons have gold, and so they give it and make the town wealthy.
Maybe, but that's not established or answered.
They didn't even go in that direction.
Yeah, and it would have been a more interesting transaction here between the kingdom of Oria and this dragon or whatever.
Versus like the revenge plot.
Right.
If it was like, all right, this dragon's evil and the people are evil. The queen is the king and queen are evil and they're evil together.
Right. And then they don't really explain the whole, like, if we don't sacrifice the girls, the dragon will come get us. Okay, has that happened before?
Right.
Have we learned that lesson? No, because there's a kingdom still standing.
Well, I think that was...
the very first time. But since then, have you guys consistently been doing your part, which still seems like too frequent in my opinion.
Yeah.
So all the whole, like, who owes what never ever made sense to me, and I'm sorry for that. There's this whole back to the fray trope where Elodie gets out and then the queen finds out she got out because, Elodie shows up at the next wedding or whatever because she's going to confront because they kidnapped her sister from the boat and threw her in the dragon pit or whatever. Now Elodie's like, I have to save my sister. So she goes back into the fray. And I'm like, I feel like we've seen this kind of thing before. Yep. It's like I know I can get past it, so I'm the one to go do it or whatever. And it's like, I'm just tired of being in those dang caves. Like, I don't want to go back. Sorry. Whatever. Yeah. The who came back to finish the map was a question I had. Like, what are you saying? Like, you came all the way and you were like, I found the exit. I must retreat. No. Anybody with a sane brain is going to just leave.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense to me either. So all in all, I feel like the reason that I didn't just give it a 0 is because I do think that there was a lot of like potential in some of these like elements, and they just didn't think it through enough to like make it cohesive. And I feel like there were a lot of like missed opportunities, like the thing that you said about like the queen. Maybe the queen gets gold from the dragon in exchange for the girls, and maybe the king and the prince have no idea. They're just trying to be good. They
good think they're family. Saving the village,
right? And so it's like, oh, well, maybe that could be a thing, but it's not. And like, I guess the only like thing I was like, oh, good about was that the royal family does get officially torched at the end. Like, okay, cool, they deserve that. And sometimes I get tired of being like, yeah, they were awful villains that killed a bunch of people, but we just gave them a good talking to. But like, we still get that dumb trope, like you said, with the dragon, when Elodie's like, they tricked you, and here's what, and you could just be a good dragon from now on or whatever. It's like, that's not what she says, but like, that's the whole basis of it. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So it just, I feel like the pacing and the missed lack of like comprehending the pieces that you're trying to place here were the biggest downfalls. And so while it's there are good pieces present, none of them really connect well. So half a point out of 2.
Yeah. I was just thinking you could wear your hood up and you'd like be on theme for the movie. Yeah. Kind of like a little
now I look bald. So.
Little Robin Hood look you got there.
The
all right. So our next category is characters. So total possible score of 3. I gave this half a point, and I think that is being very generous.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So kind of my summation for the characters is that they're completely unengaging, uninteresting, and we have no one to root for in this movie. Millie Bobby Brown, my biggest problem with her, and I like Millie Bobby Brown in general, So this is not to knock her, but her whole character comes out of the gate as this strong female. She's cold, she's hard, and she's angry. Straight out of the gate. Like, I am strong and I have to take care of everybody and I don't need no man. And like, she has nowhere to grow. Absolutely nowhere to grow. She comes right out of the gate as, I can kill the dragon if I want to. And it's like, okay, so you're not going to grow. You're coming in already the hero. Like, you have all the strong, independent character traits. And I put air quotes because they're really poorly developed. But you come in with this stereotype of what a strong female heroine would look like at the end of the movie. And you come into the movie with that.
Yeah.
And so now you have nowhere to grow. You have nowhere to grow. You're just going to walk in and kill the dragon in 5 minutes. Movie will be over. Like, so that's a problem. And then because of that, it's also a problem to now take this strong, brave, cold, hardened, heroine, and now she's screaming and crying in extreme close-ups for over half the film. Like, I thought you were this tough, independent woman that don't need no man. Like, and now we're literally watching her. I mean, I'm telling you, I got so sick of watching Millie Bobby Brown screaming and crying on a green screen. Mm-hmm. It's like, I thought you were this tough girl. Like, you were this tough cookie. And now I'm just watching you scream and cry for the whole movie.
I'm never going to deny even the toughest cookie a few tears. But
right.
It was the same thing
excessive.
over and over. Yeah.
It was just excessive. It would be one thing if she started as this, like, timid, like, I'm just really comfortable. Go the extreme trope and go, I just love reading books and sitting in my library and sipping tea. And now turn that person into a warrior.
Yeah.
But no, we start with this axe wielding, wood chopping, like, I want to see the world girl. And now we just flip her into this sobbing mess.
Yeah.
Like, for over an hour. It's not like we watched her have like this moment where she like breaks down and she's really scared and we get this vulnerable moment and then we watch her get a hold of herself and find her courage and face her fear and move past that, which would be so simple to do. We don't even have that moment for her. We literally just go straight to like panic attack for the whole movie. And I feel like it's just this very like polarizing pendulum swing of a character, which makes her unlikable, unrelatable, and she can't carry the film. And again, it's no fault of Millie Bobby Brown. It's how, her character was written and probably how she was directed to portray for each like emotional beat. And the fact that she's this like also an Olympic rock climber out of nowhere. Like, have you tried climbing, like rock climbing at the little things, like, the like fancy playgrounds that have like rock walls?
Oh yeah.
Have you tried rock climbing more than like 10 feet with like little handholds?
Nope.
Like, it's not easy. And here she is climbing these like crystals up like 200 feet. Like, wow, I didn't know that her axe chopping like built those kinds of rock climbing muscles.
Wow,
but like
her upper body strength is crazy.
It was to the point it was unbelievably unrealistic. It's like have her do a Mulan thing where she comes up with a creative way to like climb a something. It's like even in Mulan, like the Disney movie, like the original, the cartoon, not the remake, which I have not seen. Like, we watch her have moments of weakness. We don't ever doubt the strength of her character and her determination, but we see physical deficits in her ability to perform, and then we watch her overcome it without it being an unrealistic part of her character.
Yeah.
Like, we could have had like and Disney did it in a montage, and we have over an hour of Millie Bobby Brown in a cave, and we never get that kind of growth. Yeah. And because the majority of this film is her alone in a cave, like, we gotta have more than that to carry our film. So that was my biggest complaint. Her sister, though, Floria, she seems like the most organic character in the film. She seems like a real person. And the acting in this film is not great. It's all very like cookie cutter, stereotypical. It almost feels like drama camp, like the first week of drama camp when people still aren't getting used to each other, you know? And Floria comes on the screen and it's like, oh my gosh, it's a real person all of a sudden. We've watched all these awkward people deliver stereotypical paper cutout lines, and now Floria comes in. It's like a breath of fresh air. So I gave a half a point partial credit to her, to Floria. My other partial credit is to, well, I'll get there. The dad is an absolute scumbag. We clearly know that he's up to no good from day one. Like, that's made very apparent. He's an absolute scumbag. He clearly knows what he's just sold his daughter to her death. And then he has this, like, oops, I've changed moment when he shows up in the cave later. No, he is not redeemable. He literally sold his daughter for money to die. And then he comes back on and he's like, I regret what I did. No, you don't get redeemed at the end for murdering your own child for profit. It's not like his hands were tied. It was, they were going to murder, like, it was you or Floria, and I knew you were stronger, so I knew you could handle it. Like, no, it was just, we're broke, so I'm going to throw you in a pit with a dragon.
Sure.
Unacceptable. I hate that they tried to redeem him in the end. The Queen, Robin Wright's character, I thought she was a really good villain.
Yes.
And that I love that it's so clear that she's so in control of every aspect of the situation. She's in control of everyone. She's in control of her son. She's in control of her husband. She's in control of the Millie Bobby Brown's dad. Like, she is completely in control. And I feel like that is a difficult thing to convey without it being like part of your dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think Robin Wright did a great job in this film. But it is a bit one note. It's just her kind of one character trope. She's a very one-dimensional character. And then it really doesn't go anywhere. We set up her as this really interesting villain. She's very cold-hearted. Like that line when she says, like, we don't need more of his family.
Yeah.
Like, great. Like, chillingly cold, calculating. And then literally you could have deleted her out of the movie after Millie Bobby Brown falls in the cave.
Yeah.
So it was like, we had this opportunity to I was totally expecting her to come back at some point. And it's like, actually, she's the big mastermind. She was the one who killed the dragons, like, eggs.
Yeah.
So that she could have more control of this, that, and the other. Or she was manipulating the dragon this whole time. And, you know, somehow that she would be this great, like, puppet master the whole time. It was a complete waste of a character, in my opinion. Because it didn't go anywhere. The dragon seems interesting at first. I like that we find out that this is an intelligent dragon. I think the voice actor choice was a good choice for that. It's very different instead of this, like the fact that it's a female dragon, the fact that the voice isn't this typical, like, medieval English sounding dragon. Mm-hmm. She has that I think the actor is Iranian.
Yes.
And so she has that very, like, distinct voice, and her accent even comes through. It gives the dragon, I think, an otherworldly presence, and I liked that. But then the whole revenge plot, I think, just made it super flat. Like, it was like, okay, great. So because you lost 3 hatchlings, then you're killing 45 young girls, like, that aren't even from the kingdom of the people that killed your hatchlings. They're clearly importing these brides, so they're other kingdoms' daughters. So it didn't even make sense for a revenge plot. And then it was just so weak. And then all of a sudden it's like, actually, now that you're within an inch of your life, you're going to join Millie Bobby Brown's side. And, like, come on, why didn't you do that to begin with?
Yeah.
Like, why'd you even make this deal in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, it was just completely ridiculous. It made the dragon seem like an idiot at the end of the movie. The stepmother, I feel like she tried. And by that, I mean Angela Bassett and not the character.
Okay.
Because I think Angela Bassett did a great job with what she had, and what she had was trash. Like,
I might have a different perspective.
I think that it's like she her character just was, to me, it was written so campy. She's like, I'm this overly wonderful motherly mother. Like, I am the mother of mothers, and I'm just so doting on my stepdaughters, and I'm the person you can talk to. Guess what? I'm the cool mom in the Middle Ages, and you can talk to me about anything, and I love you all so much.
I have a slightly different perspective. I'll talk about it.
I felt like it was too much.
Okay.
Like, she ceased to be a real person.
Okay.
She seemed like, oh, guess what? Instead of the evil stepmother, she's the good stepmother. And then they just ratcheted that up to 11. And I'm like, Angela Bassett is a very famous and capable actress. Mm-hmm. Like, why does she seem like a cartoon character instead of a human being? And so I don't think that's Angela Bassett's fault. I think that was the direction she was given. And it just felt like, it kind of felt like you were watching a stage performance on film. It was just that much over the top.
Okay.
Is what I thought.
That's fine. You can think that. I'll talk about it when I get there.
Okay.
I have a different perspective than you on her.
That's why we do this podcast.
That's why we do this podcast.
And then Henry, why the heck did he have so much screen time? He was the biggest useless lump.
He's literally just a tool. He is a plot tool and not anything really outside of that.
I'm sorry, but the actor, it's not the actor's fault. Like, we've said this so many times. It is not the actor's fault. But it felt like watching a cardboard cutout try and act. Like, he had the weirdest facial expressions. He seemed like anytime he was trying to convey emotions, he didn't really know what the heck he was supposed to be feeling. So he just didn't act.
Yeah.
It was like he put himself on idle because in neutral because he didn't know if he should be driving or be in reverse.
Sure.
Like, he didn't know what gear to shift in, so he's just in neutral the whole time. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like, he's not interesting. He's boring. He doesn't seem to have any chemistry with Millie Bobby Brown. He doesn't seem to really care about anything. His, like, when he's like making excuses or like trying to justify his actions, he feels like he doesn't even really care about what he's saying. Yeah. Like, none of it felt like it was coming from any internal motivation from the actor himself. And again, I'm not trying to rag on this actor, but I felt like, I was like, what am I watching? Like, is this guy trying to act, or is he just not given any direction? And his character is so poorly written that he just doesn't know what to do. Yeah. He's just standing there and saying lines on a screen. Like, he's not even really acting. And I really, that sounds so harsh to say, but I was like, this guy's almost unwatchable. Like, it's that poorly done. And again, it's not his fault. I just feel like his character was a complete waste. You didn't even need him. You could have had the queen have a betrothal ceremony with every bride and walk them up, not even have a prince on screen. Maybe there is no prince. Maybe that's the big plot twist. Yeah. Her son died, and so she's got to lure all these people in to, oh, I'm going to have you marry my son. Oh, you can't meet him. Oh,
until
he's not.
The wedding.
Yeah, and then turns out his, like...
Here's a historical ceremony that we do for people. Ha
ha
ha ha.
It would have been way more interesting, but having him in the film at all was just useless. So, overall, I thought Floria did a good job. She seemed like the only person that was like a real human being. Robin Wright's acting was really good. I thought her character had great potential. And then Angela Bassett, I think she did the best with what she had, but I don't like her character. And that's why I gave it half a point out of 3. And I still think that's generous because these characters are just like, we just, you know how the, like, people will put little paper cutouts on popsicle sticks?
Yeah.
We could have acted out the whole movie with those, and it probably would have had the same emotional weight and depth of character.
Finger puppet theater.
Yes. Have a point out of 3.
Okay, so for me, for characters, I gave this 1 point out of 3. There are things I agree with that you said. Mm-hmm. There are things I have a different perspective on. I will maybe do my negatives first and then wrap up with the positives. Okay, so Elodie, I think, is just as cardboard as Henry, personally.
I do too.
I think that if Elodie and Henry had equal screen time, I would dislike both of them the same. Because
I would agree.
I feel I don't dislike Henry as much, but that's because I don't really have to deal with him that much. He shows up, he literally acts as a tool or a plot device, and then he exits the stage. At least we don't have to have all this excessive time with him. That's at least the positive to Henry. I also feel like while I don't have anything against the actor, I've never seen him in anything else though, so I don't really have a frame of reference. But I personally think that it was not the best casting choice because it's obvious he is much older than Millie Bobby Brown. They're both adults. I'm not trying to say like anything weird, but I looked it up and he was like 30 or 31 when this movie was filmed. And to me, it translated on screen like he was an older man trying to play more naive. And it almost was like there was like a little bit of like a disconnect there. And while you could argue that all acting is playing something that you're not, it almost felt like there wasn't enough of a reality tether in his depiction of Henry that he did kind of play him very like gray. There was no real color to his personality anywhere. And I don't know why that is. I can't pinpoint the reason, but I don't know if that was part of it, was that he seemed like and I wouldn't have minded if it was like, yeah, Henry is a 30-year-old prince. Those exist.
Right.
That happens. And especially in fantasy situations, but all, royal families marry age gaps all the time. Like that's not like a far-fetched idea. So if the idea is that Henry's a 30-year-old prince, he just hasn't found the right girl to settle down and we think that you're her, or, or it's about time that we married him off because we need whatever, like to strengthen the kingdom or whatever. We're looking for an heir. Like you could come up with all these different explanations but he seemed like an older gentleman, a grown man who's trying to play like 18, 19, 20. And he just didn't feel like he was 20. Like he felt like he was a grown man in his early 30s, and he was. So I don't know. To me, it just felt like that was off a little bit about him. Like I was watching a older man, like a grown man, play a very young man. And it just didn't translate very well to me.
Well, and I feel like you could have had, like, because Millie Bobby Brown is not as young as a lot of the characters she plays.
Right.
Like she's not 14 anymore.
Right.
And so I feel like you could have just thrown a line in there of her dad talking about how old she is.
Sure.
And give her an age for her actual age.
Yeah.
And age both the characters up.
Sure. Yeah. I agree. Like there's multiple, I think, like just character notes or story dialogue lines they could have thrown in there to explain some of that a little bit better.
Yeah.
I also don't think I really understand how Aurea goes on as a nation in regards to the other people involved. Is your whole nation okay with the fact that you do human sacrifices as often as you see fit? Like, is the whole idea that your entire nation is a cult? Because it just seems confusing to me. Mm-hmm. Because, like, if the idea is that Aurea is a very strong nation with a good reputation, then you would think that...
And none of that ever got out?
Right, that's what I mean. Is like, is the entire nation so secretive that none of the good allies or relationships that Aurea has with other kingdoms or parts of the world... Like, they're just, everybody who lives there is so good at the secret and so accepting of the secret that nobody knows. Like, that to me felt weird. Like, literally nobody says anything. Are they blackmailed? Are they bribed? Like, I that's never explained either, and it just felt very weird. Elodie is so noisy. I know you talked about this. She's so noisy. And I agree with a lot of what you said about Elodie. I don't think I dislike her quite as much as you do. I think she is very cardboard, and I think she has a slight bit of growth, but I think she grows in the wrong way. And what I mean by that is she does start out of the gate like this sort of cold whatever, and I'm so tough and I don't need no man. But then she has this moment where it seems like Elodie is softening toward the idea of being a princess and a bride. And so she is suddenly very vulnerable.
Right.
Like but then she gets thrown in so if you're...
For no reason.
She gets thrown in the pit. So it's like, okay, so if Elodie is independent and kind of a skeptic, that as she's portrayed in the very beginning of the film, then why is she not hesitant at all about all this weird stuff that's going on? They cut her wrist and like make her, I'm going to carry you, close your eyes, like as I carry you over the pit or whatever. If Elodie is as skeptical and tough and independent as she's made to be in the beginning of the film, there would be hesitation, at least hesitation, if not resistance, in her in all of this. But there's not any of that. She softens way up. So now I'm confused. Like, who are you? Like, which side is really you? Maybe she actually is vulnerable and likes to be doted on, and this is what she's been hoping for and never let anybody know. But now she has it, so she feels like she can let her. So maybe that's the spin. But then they throw her into the pit, and now she's tough girl again.
Right.
But tough girl who screams in an echoey cave that this dragon knows and you do not. Yep. And then we're going to make it a whole plot point when you go to save your sister who is now being held captive by this dragon. I have to be so quiet and I'm going to make a noise distraction all the way over here because then the dragon will think I'm over there. And then it goes, and then the dragon goes because the noise. And then she's like, hey, Floria, wake up. And you're like, oh my gosh, you are an idiot.
So true.
So that bothered me so bad. Elodie's father, I feel very indifferent about. Like, at least my positive on Elodie's father is at least I can understand because they explained him enough, but I still don't think he's a good guy by any means. And while I kind of like the fact that he came back, I feel like logistically it still doesn't make sense because the point here is that Elodie has survived longer than anybody else, or at least that's the implication. Mm-hmm. And so by the time you showed up, she would probably have been dead in any other situation. So it feels to me like it's a poor motivation almost so that he could say, I went back for her, but I was too late. Now you're making it about yourself.
Right.
That's what it felt like to me. So I still think he's kind of a trash heap, but I kind of liked that there was this moment because in my opinion, it didn't do the whole, oh, I'm so glad that he was forgiven before he died, which like, whatever, Elodie can forgive him if she wants. I don't. But in my head, I was like, he really thought he had a chance. And like, he's kind of a fool for that. And so that was really my thing. So,
and I never understood why. Okay, so the whole thing is Elodie's trapped in this cave system. And she's got to find her way out. And the whole thing with the the whole thing is about her finding her way out. And you're telling me of like the 50 girls that have been down there and their corpses are just littering the cavern. Mm-hmm. None of them found their way out to the big entrance where all these knights are always coming into.
And that was another thing I didn't understand about the dragon. So the dragon... So when Elodie leaves and then she like jumps on the horse and then she realizes she's being chased, so she jumps off and hides and the horse goes on and then they torch the horse, which I'll talk about that later. I'm so mad about that. But so another thing I didn't understand was about the motives of the dragon is if you can leave, why don't you just go get your own girls?
Yeah.
You could have your pick of the litter in Oria. Mm-hmm. And if it's like there's a pact between the people and the dragon. Well, it's like...
What's the benefit of the pact for the dragon?
That's what I'm saying. Is like, I don't understand. Anyway, okay, sorry. I don't think I understood the dragon either.
If it was like, we will leave you alone and we won't kill your hatchlings again. Mm-hmm. But guess what? She don't have any.
And they don't really explain that either. Is she just not... Do dragons, like, they lay eggs once in their life?
Again, no rules.
No rules and no explanation. Okay, anyway. Here's some positives. Yes, Robin Wright is the best actress, I think, in the whole film. And she really makes you hate her. Yeah. And I think it's great. And I also think that she is the most nuanced character of the whole cast. I think that every line that she says has a double meaning, and she plays it in such a way where she is so perfectly diplomatic. Nobody could hold those words against her. Everything she says, nothing can be held against her, but you can see what she means when she says it. And I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Also, Floria is, like you said, probably the most real, and I wish that this movie had been about Floria and not Elodie, because I think overall it would have been a much more interesting story, and I would have been much more excited for the growth and eventual victory of Floria than Elodie, who is already like the tough big sister, like I gotta handle things kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, let's put the more vulnerable sister in. Maybe Elodie could have a part where she does attempt to go retrieve Floria. Maybe that could still be part of it.
Right. That could have been that could have been a really good plot, watching her survive in the cave.
Yeah. So anyway, I think Floria is great. Now, here is going to be my argument about the stepmother. Okay. Angela Bassett.
Shoot. Go for it.
So I think that because this movie has so many elements, puzzle pieces, Tetris blocks of different fantasy things that are popular in fantasy as a genre, and they're kind of thrown together, mishmashed. I think if we had yet another trope, the trope being the bad step parent, I would have lost my mind. So I do not mind that the stepmother is a good woman. Like, she has good intentions and good sense, and she doesn't get jealous at the mention of their real mother early, and like, she's a good woman. I also think that perhaps there is a little bit of the element of I'm a great mother, I listen to things or whatever, blah 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 blah. However, I think what's beneficial to her character is that she's not present for a huge amount of the film. So she never, in my opinion, becomes overbearing or naggy to either character, especially even in the scene where she kind of goes to Elodie's bedroom the night before the wedding and she's like, I'm just telling you this, but I trust you to make the decision you think is right. And so she doesn't come across as bossy or like anything like that. I also think that as you discover and see the fact that even their living biological parent has more regard for Gold than he does his daughter, her role in their life as a maternal figure that they can rely on, and there is no secret, oh whoops, I'm also a villain, or I gave Floria over to the evil queen because I didn't want to get in trouble, and like blah blah. There is no malice in her, and so I am okay with these girls, as cardboard as Elodie is, maybe more so for the benefit of Floria, but I'm perfectly okay with having one adult figure in this movie having some genuine care and concern for the young girls at risk, and also seeing the signs of risk early and attempting, even if it's maybe a campy way, but in her way of giving some genuine concern, but also not to the point of, if you don't do this, you're gonna be ruined or whatever. She gives her concern and she's emotional in her delivery of that, but she, in my opinion, never comes across like I deserve to be listened to because I'm your mother or your stepmother. There's always that balance of like, I understand that I'm not your real mother, but I still care for you so much. I can't not say anything. So that's my argument for the stepmother. And I think, also a significant moment is when she runs toward the caverns and meets Elodie outside. And she tells Elodie, I tried to keep Floria, but I couldn't, like, and she was stabbed, she's like, she's in there or whatever. And she never blames Floria or Elodie or anybody for the situation that they're in, which I feel like she could have, like, I tried to tell you, I tried to warn you. There's none of that. This is a problem. I tried to help. I failed. I'm sorry. And then Elodie makes a decision, I'm going to go back. And I don't think it's necessarily like a huge bonding moment between Elodie and the stepmother for I don't think it's like a bonding moment, but I think it's an important character note for the stepmother, is that she, even after Floria is taken and she has been stabbed, she still feels a sense of duty to do something that a biological parent should, and she's not biological. She's and her husband's dead. So she really, if she had any ill intent, she would have been out the door at that point, and she continues on anyway. So that's my argument for the stepmother. I think she's a good character, and I'm fine with her.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. Mm-hmm. My complaint with the stepmother is not any of those character notes as they relate to the plot.
Okay.
My complaint with the stepmother is, I think it's almost like we wrote a sweet, like, well-rounded. We started with like a sweet, well-rounded, like, character. Mm-hmm. And it should have been like I don't know. It should have been like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a piece of candy that like would equate. It should have been like a Reese's cup.
Okay.
Like a little bit of that chocolate on the outside, sweet enough that peanut butter kind of balance it out. It's like sweet on the middle, sweet enough like you know what that should taste like. And instead of the Reese's cup, which is as it should have been and written and delivered, we got a 24-ounce cup of pure sugar. Like sugar water. And I think the delivery of
is
it
just too much, too saturated.
Just too heavy-handed.
Okay.
And like too over the top. And it's like, she is all of those things that you said, but I felt like the presentation of it to the audience, and again, I'm not blaming Angela Bassett for this, but I think the way that the film, the creative powers that be of the film wanted her to portray it was, we just put the like full throttled that to the extent where it was just unbelievable.
Okay.
So that's what I mean.
I can understand what you're saying. And I think probably that's made worse too by the fact that so many of the characters feel like cardboard cutouts.
Right.
Perhaps if all of the characters had consistent personality flavors, if we're going to use like sweet as kind of like an analogy, then maybe it wouldn't feel so over the top.
Right.
Kind of the way that like, I hate to compare media to media, but like the fantasy world of Ella Enchanted is like everybody's just a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because of
everybody
how the world
is that way. And so it's like, I think that there was not a lot of nuance in her character.
Okay.
It was like, this is your beat up here
and we're gonna
every
stay
time.
There. Okay.
Instead of this nice like up and down, like which would feel more human. And she felt like a cartoon character, like all the way at 10. So my complaint is not the character herself, I guess, which is why I say I think she did the best with what she had. And I mean Angela Bassett. Okay. Because what she had was some pretty good substance. And I don't think she was directed to be that full throttle in one direction and one note. Just like Robin Wright. I think Robin Wright did a great job, but I think she did lean a little bit more into that one note versus that nuance. Sure. And so for the two of them, I would say I would say Angela Bassett maybe a little less nuanced, but I think both of them were written like they had good substance, but what we had delivered was just one note and no nuance. So, but I don't disagree. All of your points I think are great, and I don't disagree with any of them.
Maybe I advocated too hard for the character.
No. I think you did. I think you made some very good points.
Okay. All right. So 1 point out of 3 for characters.
All right. So our next category is aesthetics. Out of 2 possible points, I give this half a point. My kind of summation of this is it wasn't unwatchable. So it wasn't great either. My biggest complaint, and I've complained about this a lot, there is just way too much green screen and the CGI is just not great. It's not terrible. It's not to the point where I can't watch it, but I know that this entire time Millie Bobby Brown is in this cave, she is on a green screen. Yeah. And nothing around her is actually there. And I am a lay person watching a Netflix TV show, and I can watch multiple other Netflix TV shows that are filmed on a green screen, but they don't feel like they're filmed on a green screen. A couple like specifics. At the very beginning, I just almost started laughing right at the gate when the horses from the king, like at the very beginning in the intro, why are they running in a V formation? They're not geese. They don't need to catch each other's draft on
some
it.
Sort of weird
no,
drill
no
formation. I don't know.
They're not even in step. They're out of step with each other. There's there's like a gap in their little formation. It's like, come on, guys, we couldn't have just tried one more time. Like, don't get me wrong. Riding that many horses in camera is hard, but good grief, Peter Jackson did it with way more horses in Lord of the Rings, and it looked great. Yeah. Like, come on. And it's zoomed so far out. Get some horse girls on there. They'll have it done in
Honestly,
3 minutes. Yeah. Like, come on, guys. Like, the opening scene of the dragon, the CGI, as like I cringed as soon as I saw it. I was like, oh no, this is gonna be like campy CGI. I did think the fire melting the guards was okay, like it wasn't bad, but like overall, I think the creature design of the dragon, like this is one of your most main characters, like the creature design is just really not that great. Personally, I don't really like it. I feel like the face of the dragon is really short. Like, it doesn't have, like, it's not proportioned to something that large. And I feel like this might be getting really nitpicky or really in the weeds, but I think that I really like creature design. I find it really interesting. I like, watching things about special effects and the way that they design different, fantastical animals and creatures, because so much of it has to be based in real anatomy, real animal, like components. Usually there has to be some kind of frame of reference because we live in the real world and we have to be able to tie like how a creature and an animal functions to real world science and reality. Like, you would know if somebody showed you a picture of a bird, you would, with its wings spread, you would know if its wings were too short.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to measure how long its wings are. You would know those wings are too short to lift that bird up in the air.
And it's like, and sometimes when we see a real animal and something like that is unusual, it's the first thing we notice.
Right.
Is that, why are that animal's legs so short?
Right.
It's like, it's just a weird anomaly in this animal. And so it's like we instinctively know that like this is not proportionate.
Right. And so I feel like with this film, especially with when your dragon is your main character, and then you find out your dragon can speak, and then you find out your dragon is going to have a face-to-face conversation with a main character, I find it problematic when we're watching the mouth of an animal, and this is another thing that might be nitpicky, but when you watch the mouth of an animal move to create human words and speech, like, that's why in like films, like a dog's mouth it can't just drop open and close like this, like a puppet to talk. Its lips have to move to form words. Like, that subconsciously without somebody explaining that to you. That's just because we're used to watching humans speak. So you have this reptilian animal with a really short, like, anatomically incorrect looking face forming human words. It's already jarring to watch an animal's mouth form human words, and now its face doesn't seem to fit proportionally to itself and to the rest of the body. I just found it very distracting.
Sure.
And this is supposed to be like a climactic moment of the film where this main character has this like intellectual conversation and a backstory with motivation and reason and cognitive thought versus just a predator lion that's chasing our protagonist, like a predator animal. And like that's kind of the biggest deal of your movie. Like, you should take the most care and effort into making sure that all of that looks good from from the right angles and things like that. So I had a big problem with that. That's kind of a general pet peeve of mine. But some other things I didn't like. Millie Bobby Brown, the way that she chops wood with an axe, would never actually chop wood. It was extremely poor axe technique. It takes 2 seconds to learn how to chop wood with an axe. I could show you in like 2 minutes. I've done it. Like, come on. You can't teach this young woman who's very capable how to properly cut wood with an axe and use form that actually looks like she knows what she's doing. That's just lazy. I feel like that's just lazy. The part of the beginning when Henry is asking her, like, where'd you learn to ride like that? I thought I was going to die laughing. Millie Bobby Brown can't fake ride on a horse to save her life. She's clearly not riding a horse. She's just flailing around.
It's like at the end of Napoleon Dynamite when he's like, I caught you a wild honeymoon stallion.
Yeah. It's not even that bad. Like, it's worse than that. Like, and he's like, where did you learn to ride like that? And she's like about to fall off the horse. Like, come on.
Today's my first day.
We couldn't have given her like 2 minutes to get it right and make it look good. Again, it just feels like laziness on behalf of the filmmakers. She doesn't know what she's looks like. Like, you're the director. That was your job to go, you kind of look like a sack of potatoes flopping around on the back of a horse when the prince is supposed to be asking her, where did you learn to ride like that?
It's like in Camp Rock when Mitchie's like, wow, she's really good after Caitlin presses some buttons on her laptop.
Clicks 3 keys on the keyboard.
Go listen to that episode.
Episode 1, season 4. Oh my gosh. Yeah, just a good night. That whole part where Millie Bobby Brown's fighting the dragon was just terrible. Like, the choreography was bad, the CGI was bad. It was almost boring to watch. And then at the end, when they have a slow-mo walk with the dragon, like, come on, can we not? I swear AI wrote this movie. Like, I swear. They picked every trope out of the book. We're gonna slow-mo walk with a dragon. Like, come on.
Now it's Mission Impossible.
Apparently so. Like, just a car explodes and I walk away from it. Oh my gosh. The reason I didn't give this 0 points, though, it wasn't unwatchable. I thought the practical sets were really, really good. I thought they were really good. Specifically, I remember distinctly the bedroom at the castle where Millie Bobby Brown goes into, and those huge pillars with the dragon tails. Like, you look at these stone spiralings around the pillars, and then you realize it's like the tail of a dragon. Mm-hmm. I mean, just beautiful. Yeah. It looked gorgeous. The costumes overall looked really, really nice. Yeah. I mean, everybody's costume looked great. The only one I didn't like was kind of the really stereotypical looking dress that Millie Bobby Brown wears once she's in the cave, and her dress is all like tattered. Yeah. It looked like it looked like it was a designer. It was designed to be tattered.
I had a big problem with, of all of the pieces to take off, why would you not take the corset off? I'd be so uncomfortable.
Yeah. It was just like the tattered dress. I was like, okay, this is a little tropey. Mm-hmm. The fire from the dragon being magma instead of flame, I really liked that choice. I thought that was a great choice. It made it different. It made it really inventive. It made it more complex. Like, now you're not just evading fire that's coming from the dragon's breath, and then it's going to dissipate once the fuel source, meaning the dragon's mouth, is gone. Now we have molten magma that's going to flow into the cave and follow me even after the dragon's gone. Yeah. So the dragon could potentially breathe fire, like magma, and then move to another side while you're running away from that hazard. It could circle back around and catch you. I thought that was a very, very brilliant choice. It made it for a very interesting. I wish they'd capitalized on it a little more. Also, the burn makeup on Millie Bobby Brown's leg, I think it is, it did not look bad. I was actually impressed. It looked like it may have had some CGI on it as well, but it looks like a pretty decent practical effect piece, which I always appreciate when there's practical effects. in film. So that I thought was pretty good. I think that's most of what I have. I have a little note, but I have no idea what it said. I think I just forgot to finish a sentence.
Okay.
So, but yeah, for the most part, I feel like if your main character that kind of like switches sides at the ends, being the dragon, that should have been like your flawless piece of special effect. And so visually, I found it really distracting. I thought the proportions of it were just weird, and it just seemed very unnatural. I think that they were trying to do something a little different, which I can appreciate. But then if you're going to do a different kind of dragon than what we've seen before with The Hobbit, Aragon, Dragonheart, Game of Thrones, all of these CGI dragons we've seen before that have very similar looks. Well, I guess you could argue Dragonheart's a little different, but all have very similar, like classical looking English style yeah. medieval dragon, which Dragonheart would count in that category. And you want to do something different, your execution of it has to be perfect, or your audience is going to go, this dragon just looks funny. Like, it just looks weird. It doesn't make sense into my brain. A fantastical creature does not mean that it doesn't follow laws of like nature, anatomy, structure, form. So that's my biggest complaint, but I think that there are also many small issues visually. So that's why I gave it 0.5 point out of 2.
Okay. So for me, for aesthetics, I gave it 1 point out of 2. Some of the things that bothered you didn't bother me as much. I don't think the dragon was perfect. I appreciate that we got something different as far as it goes, but I do agree that there are some like proportion issues. In my opinion, it almost felt like they were trying to make the dragon look more like a chimera than a dragon. Which I almost wish that they would have committed one way or another instead of this weird dragon chimera mashup that it kind of feels like they tried to do. It almost felt a little bit like there were elements of like the alien from the Alien movies. Yeah. And I think that the idea is to make something look terrifying on the screen. And so it felt like there were elements of almost like something alienistic about it, which I am okay with a weird sci-fi creature, but the setting here is fantasy. And so it almost felt like it did not quite fit the world that it was living in. So that was my biggest issue with the dragon. It wasn't quite as intense as your dislike, but I didn't love it. I didn't love the dragon. I think my biggest issue with the CGI is that, in my opinion, CGI should not be obvious all the time. And while I don't think it's that the actual elements of CGI that were created are bad or poor or look out of place, they're just obvious enough that it was like, I know that this is not real. And so when your brain realizes that this is not real, then that suspension of disbelief lowers a bit, and it's just how it goes. And so because so much of the movie does rely on CGI, there were multiple moments where I was reminded that this is not real. So it's just kind of the downfall of that, I guess. I had a slight problem with the fact that Millie Bobby Elodie's eye makeup stays flawless the whole time she's in the cave. I can't keep my eye makeup flawless during a 5-hour shift at work. How did Elodie survive maybe days in this cave and her eye makeup is perfect? Through sleeping and running and all the things that she did.
Crying.
A lot of like there's no way your smoky eyes are so pristine. Like, that just frustrated me multiple times throughout the film. I got disappointed because in the beginning of the movie, they do a really good job at having these differences in color palettes to kind of show like the part of the world or area, the snowy, wintry area that Elodie and her family are from, and then those muted color palettes that are to be expected of a snowy place, and then very different, warm, rich tones in Aurea. And so I thought, oh, good, they're going to do great like color, like color palettes for different areas. And then we spend so much of the movie in this cave that looks the same.
Yep.
And I got disappointed for that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it was just a missed opportunity. And because the pacing of the movie is so poor, we spend time we don't need to be spending in these caves. So I was disappointed with that because it was so good for a moment, and then there's just no consistency through all of that, which I was really disappointed about. I personally really liked the sound design, with one exception. That one exception is so much screaming. So tired of the screaming.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a sound mixing note, but I just got tired of hearing the screaming all the time. But one thing I noticed is that the score took sound effects and or some of the dragon cries and used them as musical notations or almost like transition into different sections of the score, which I thought was a really lovely way to start or end or almost like transition different sections of a score piece together, is to naturally use the sounds that are present. It made the score feel less like a score and more like atmospheric music without being distracting. But there was a point where I was like, I'm just going to kind of like absorb what I'm like hearing. And so I like rewound it a little bit and I just listened to the score. And a really good example of this is actually when they're in the boat kind of traveling to Oria, and they hear like this horn or whatever. And as they're hearing this horn, which is kind of vague where it's coming from, but it kind of sounds like something you'd naturally hear while you were traveling by boat, is you have this horn sound and then it swelled into this like brass part of the score. And I was like, that was good. That was really good. And it's not the only time that happens. I just think it's the easiest place to pick it out. It happens a lot in the score or the caves as well, because the sound of the dragon is so prevalent. And so parts of that are used to transition into score, which I thought was really, really neat and not something that you see a lot. I feel like a lot of times people keep sound effect and score separate. And so it's kind of nice that they almost like met each other sometimes in these like nice little sound touches. So I really appreciated that. I don't really have much else to say. I agree with a lot of what you said. It just didn't bother me quite as much. So 1 out of 2 points for aesthetics for me.
You were going to say something about the horse.
Later.
Okay.
I still haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay. One thing I did forget to say was a negative I had was the bird carnage. Did not like that.
Okay.
With all the birds when the dragon puts them on fire and then we have to watch this bird die.
Yeah.
Like, come on. That's unnecessary.
That was very sad.
That was not okay. I was not okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, that's just too much. Like, and why? And then, of course, it made no sense. Like,
because we didn't see the dragon eating any of the birds. Like,
well, and what birds are making a nest in a dragon cave?
How did they get there?
Like,
why are they there?
That's Darwinism right there.
Yeah.
Like
these birds should have understood that
you're
there's
telling
a dragon
me
here and left.
they've never we have birds in our yard. If you walk past them, they're gonna, you don't have to breathe fire at a bird for it to fly away.
Yeah.
Like you're telling me these birds got right up on top of this dragon and then just were like, here's a great place to make a nest.
The dragon rigged a net system outside of the caverns.
Okay.
And that was his haul, his lunch for the day.
Okay. Even though it didn't eat a single bird.
Right.
I did not like that part. So, sorry. Next category is personal taste and preference. Out of a total possible score of 2, because that's all we're allowed, I gave this 0 out of 2. I was rooting for the dragon the whole time, and the only part I liked was when the dragon burned down the whole castle. So, 0.
Okay. For me, I gave it 1 point out of 2. I think it's very generous of me. The reason I did this is because overall I like the ideas that the movie did. And I don't necessarily regret watching it. I honestly, as for all of the critiques that I've given, I didn't have a poor time watching it. But I also will probably never watch it again. Unless somebody I know is just like, oh, I really, really want to watch it. Will you watch it with me? Like, okay. But I don't think I'm going to miss this film. Like, it's not going to be a film that I'm like, oh, I'd really like to watch Damsel again. Like, that's not going to, I don't anticipate that being something in my future. Also, they killed the horse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that. That poor horse should not have suffered at the hands of Elodie.
True.
And I get that, okay, it was the horse or it was Elodie, but at that point, I didn't care. It should have been Elodie. I didn't like that they just, like, torched the horse.
Yeah.
I was very upset about that.
It's a pretty bad move.
Yeah.
Bad form.
Yeah.
All right. So next category is creativity. So out of a total possible score of 1, I gave this 0 points. I've read stories and novels with similar concepts, and this movie honestly was a poor rendition of a 5th grade version of one. The visuals and characters also did nothing new. It wasn't even good, let alone new. So I thought this movie was going to kind of move into the plot of a book that I'm going to shamelessly plug called Dragon's Keep by Janet Lee Carey, which I think you read that book as well.
I did. I think I've read 2 of the series.
Yeah, I didn't know there was more than 1. Which I think is a great story about a girl and a dragon, and has nice change and twist and turns in the plot. And I thought this was going to move in the direction of a film like that. And I've read books in similar veins of this movie, and every book I've read has done better than this movie. So for that reason, I feel like I can't give this credit for creativity. And genuinely, I'm not saying this to just brag on it, but it really felt like an AI compilation of like, let's write a fantasy movie. Write me a fantasy movie about a princess and a dragon cave, and starring Millie Bobby Brown. And this is the movie it spit out. And it just pulled from a lot of typical YA, even children's fantasy novels, and just threw it together and haphazardly produced it and spit it out. And again, I really am not trying to rag on it for the sake of the people that worked very hard on this film. But it just felt like it needed some more time baking in the oven, and came out just like a bunch of raw dough. So I don't think it did anything new, didn't do anything different. I think this is not going to stand the test of time. I don't think it's iconic. I don't think people are going to go down in history saying this was my favorite movie ever. Like, it's just has a lot that I can't give it credit for creativity. So 0.
Okay. For creativity, I also gave it 0 points out of 1. So the best way that I can describe my perspective on creativity is, imagine watching someone play Tetris, and each Tetris block is a different element of fantasy, like as a genre. But they are the worst Tetris player that you've ever played, and you're watching them drop blocks, and they're just off by like this much. And so you're like watching it pile up to this climax, and then they lose at the end, and you're like,
they get blocked out at the end.
You're watching the whole thing, and you're like, no, like the whole time. That's kind of how this movie feels.
Yeah, it is.
That's my analogy for creativity.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. I like that.
Thanks. So your final score comes to?
My final score for Damsel by Netflix, came out in 2024. Out of total possible score of 10 is 1.5 out of 10.
And mine is 3.5. So it's still pretty low.
That's really low for you.
Yeah, it's pretty low for me.
That's really low for you.
Anything below 4 is pretty rough for me.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's it. Would you like to say anything before we go into lightning round?
No. Let's go into some lightning round questions. Okay. I think it's funny that we call it lightning round, but yet it's not really a lightning round.
Yeah, we sometimes take 30 minutes on this.
Yeah. So, but that's what we called it from day one. So we're sticking with it.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite character. We'll probably have the same answer.
My favorite character, I don't know.
Should I give?
Oh, yeah. I do know. It would be, I think it'd be Floria.
Yeah, same here.
It'd be Floria.
Floria for me.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have to pick a favorite scene.
When the dragon burns down the castle.
Yeah, honestly, same. Mm-hmm. At the very end, when everybody finally gets their comeuppance.
They all die.
Throwing girls into the dragon's pit.
Murdering children.
Yeah, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you had to pick a favorite set or location, like locale,
Yeah, I would think it'd be that. I think, like I said, in aesthetics, I think the room where I think Elodie ends up staying.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is, with those pillars and the dragon tails kind of curving around them. I think that set was really, really good. If there was CGI in it to like make that like look in frame,
Mm-hmm.
it was the best CGI in the movie because
Yeah.
it looked
Real.
in camera to me.
Mine is probably where they end up having the wedding, but in the scene previous to that, when you can see all the like castle workers are like putting the flowers and stuff, and it's just like that really pretty like stone platform or dais,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like overlooking the way the water stream kind of like comes into like the castle grounds. And I think that's just like a really, really pretty area.
Nice.
And it's unfortunate we only get the wedding scene literally takes like 60 seconds and then we're
Right.
done. So
Yeah.
okay, if you were thrown into a dragon's pit, what are 3 items that you would want with you?
If I was thrown into a dragon's pit?
Mm-hmm. If you could pick 3 items to have with you.
A sword,
Mm-hmm.
a shield,
Mm-hmm.
and are the glowworms in the pit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something that doesn't already exist in the pit. So sword and shield would count.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying, if the glowworms are there,
Oh, okay.
then I wouldn't
you don't
pack
have to pick it.
pack
Yeah.
something for like healing purposes.
Sure.
Ooh, what would my third thing be? I guess like a rope
Okay.
to try and get out. I'm trying to think of a way to escape.
Yeah.
Like a sword and the shield to protect yourself, obviously, from flames, and something to like stabby if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think of like what would help me like escape.
Sure.
And I can't think of anything other than a rope, but I do not have the best upper body strength, so I would
fair.
like a ladder. A
Fair.
really tall ladder.
Yeah.
I'd have to carry it around. It'd be so noisy.
Well, Elodie's noisy and she
An
made it out.
extension ladder.
So, yeah. I think I would pick like a lantern, preferably. I don't know if electricity.
We're in
exists.
fantasy world, so let's say no electricity.
No electricity.
Because
So-
otherwise I'd pick like an AK-47.
Okay.
That's not allowed, so.
So then probably like matches so that I could start a fire if I could find a safe place to do that. I would probably want like a supply of water, so like a canteen or
Mhm.
something like that, and then I'd probably say like a bow and arrow.
Bow and arrow's a good choice.
Yeah, because
but how are
if
you
I
gonna
got
get
super
out?
hungry and I got desperate, I would go back to the bird room and I would shoot some birds down.
True, but then like how are you going to get out?
How
Walk.
did Elodie got out.
Walk around.
She didn't have anything.
True. That's
So,
true.
I
I'm
don't know.
surprised you picked the water and the fire making material. Because I feel like I'd just wait and then like find a way to
'Cause-
scoop up some lava on my shield and then like make a fire with that.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't mean that's valid. But also my thought is if I can just keep my strength up,
True.
then
I like your
that's a lot. That's a game changer right there.
True.
So,
It's a good strategy.
okay,
It's a good
last
strategy.
question.
Yeah.
Are there any elements from other fantasy works that you wish were present here or you think would improve this movie?
I think there's several.
Okay,
but,
give me an example.
Well, I think I kind of already like alluded to it, but I think that the plot would have had more stability and been more interesting if the queen, the evil queen, and the dragon were like on the same side for like a quid pro quo. And let's not make the dragon a good guy at the end. I feel like it's overdone to have everybody likes dragons. They're cool. How to Train Your Dragon, like dragons are good guys. Like let's make the dragon a bad guy and keep it a bad guy and not switch it at the end. And then make it so that the dragon and the queen have like a quid pro quo. And now Elodie's plan, instead of fighting the dragon, we just got to get the queen, because if the queen's gone, now the dragon doesn't get any like people to eat.
Mhm.
And if the dragon's riches are there, like supplying the kingdom, like let's just swap it out and figure out a different way to like appease the dragon maybe, or like, so I feel like that would be kind of, so like making the queen and the dragon both villains and like committing them to both be villains, but have them on the same side.
Okay.
I feel like that, and that's not necessarily like an element of fantasy, except it kind of just connects like the evil queen, and I think keeping the dragon evil instead of, or even just self-serving, kind of like Smaug from The Hobbit, like keeping him just this, he's not a morally driven character.
Sure.
He's an animalistic, opportunistic, predator.
Yeah.
So maybe, I guess that would be kind of the more of the element to bring, is more of like the dragon as a villain, like Smaug from The Hobbit.
Okay. I think what could improve the overall story is an effective use and execution of like royal treason. Make somebody like the king, who's been a very shadowed character, he basically has no purpose, for him to finally put his foot down and be like, no more to this, and for there to be a conflict on that side. Have somebody who has been for this for so long no longer be for this, or even Prince Henry, or somebody else, like just somebody who could effectively like stand up to, even if they're not successful, but just like a nice execution of that, I think could have like tipped the scales in regards to like, is there any interest outside of this dragon? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in regards to conflict or whatever.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's all of the lightning round questions. Do you have any final thoughts?
Nope. But you've picked 2 movies in a row that I've just ragged on.
Yeah,
so,
it's okay. I'm not hurt.
Well, I know that, but the viewers might be. They might be like, I can't listen to this podcast anymore.
Hopefully, I'll get a winner.
We'll pick a winner.
A winner topic here soon.
Yeah, there we go.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We hope you had a good time. We know we did. If you have any ideas of what we could review next, then you can leave us a comment or use our suggestion box on our website, which is lionandmousepodcast.com. You can also find links to our show notes, Patreon, socials over there at our website. Review this episode wherever you listen to your podcasts so that we can be seen more. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, share, that sort of thing. Helps us reach as many people as we can. We appreciate the support. Thank you so much for listening. We will catch you in the next one.